Hello, Metro Jacksonville. I'm Marcel Polednik. I'm the director of the Museum of Contemporary Art, Jacksonville.
And I'm Stephen Dare. Marcel, how would you explain the mission of the Museum of Contemporary Art for Jacksonville?
The mission of the museum, and this is not the official mission of the museum, but it's the unofficial and really the idea that formulates and impresses itself upon everything that we do, is to be a place of exchange for the art and ideas of our time.
What is contemporary art?
Depends how you define it. If you're talking about it in terms of a chronological standpoint, it really varies from museum to museum. For example, an encyclopedic museum might define contemporary art as 1945, the end of World War II, to the present. A contemporary art museum will vary in its definition. Some will go so far as to say that 1980 to the present is contemporary art. We have taken a step back and given a little bit more of the context for contemporary art and said that 1960 to the present, for the purposes of our museum, defines contemporary art. That's one way to define contemporary art. The other, of course, and one of the challenges of defining contemporary art is that just because an artist is alive today doesn't necessarily mean that they're involved in contemporary art. I think about someone like Monet, for example, who was living all the way to the 20s and the early 30s at the time when the Dada artists were alive in France, and was painting his best-known water lilies in the 20s. He wasn't what I would refer to as a contemporary artist in the 20s or the 30s. He just happened to have a very long lifespan. So I think it's important to acknowledge that contemporary art is not just about chronological viewpoints, but is also about certain ideas and concepts that are being explored by artists over time. And one of them has to do with the engagement with contemporary culture, politics, sociolingual interests, etc. So there are a lot of different concepts that artists are pursuing. The art by and of itself can take a variety of different manifestations. It doesn't have to be a work on canvas anymore. It doesn't have to be an object anymore. It doesn't even have to be anything visual anymore for it to qualify as contemporary art. So it really varies a great deal, and I think one of the best ways that we can really encapsulate it is to say that it does generate and somehow go back to and also explore ideas that are active in our society right now, however you define our society, whether it's Jacksonville, whether it's the Southeast, whether it's America, whether it's the world.
So would you include fluxism and conceptual art under the mantra of contemporary art?
For the purposes of mocaj Jacksonville, yes, fluxus, anything essentially 1960 and something that happened after 1960 would be considered for us contemporary art. We're pursuing a number of different exhibitions. You know, we don't take our role here very lightly, so we're actually working on exhibitions that take 3 to 4 years to put together. We have a whole system in place to be able to build out our exhibition schedule. And so rather than an off-the-cuff response, we really spend a lot of time thinking about the kind of exhibitions that we need to do, why we need to do them, what kind of a public we're trying to reach, what the significance is to our audience here, to our audience at the university, as well as to our audience worldwide, and why we are the right venue for a particular exhibition.
Jacksonville is such a large city, and there's so many talented people here, and yet we have such a limited presence in the larger art scene. Are you hoping to develop art locally? And what kind of contribution do you think that we as a city and as the museum can make to the larger national or international art world?
My hope really is that in a few years we'll be able to look back at the museum and really see it as one of the big feathers in the cap of Jacksonville as a whole, as an institution that really brings cultural tourism to the city, that expands the kind of opportunities that our artists here can explore by virtue of having been affiliated with this organization.
What is the best way to get involved with the museum?
I think one of the best ways is to come to the museum. You know, we really want people to come and see the exhibitions that we have to offer, to take part in the public programs, to join the museum and become a member so that you have access to other benefits as well. But the idea really is that if we're a part of this community, then we also need to reflect the diversity, the richness of what this community is about. So taking part in what we do will actually help not only the museum, but will also in turn help the community gain more access to information about contemporary art, which can be hard to come by. So we don't want people to be afraid of contemporary art. We want them to enjoy it. We want them to feel free to formulate opinions about it. And one of the best ways is to learn more about it.
Thank you so much for giving us your time, Marcel.